Hi, I'm Patricia Greenberg, and you're listening to It's Okay to Be Old. Fitness for life. Now, today we're going to talk about what really works for the older adult when it comes to fitness. Now, having run 20 marathons and 110 half marathons myself, I do tower climbing and I do hardcore weight training. I thought I had it all down. And I'm now exploring how we need to change and adapt our fitness goals as we age. My guest today is Tony Berlant, and he is a health and fitness industry veteran with more than 25 years of experience, with a special focus on sports and exercise physiology and psychology, and certifications as a functional aging specialist and a brain health trainer. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you very much. I'd say you have it down pretty well with that kind of racetrack record.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out myself too. As much as I think I know about all of it, there's always something to learn, right? And that's part of the healthy aging process is learning as you go and learning about new things you could be doing to just improve your quality of life on a daily basis. I think about that a lot. Tony, I want to start by quoting something you state on your website. Address your overall health and wellness as far upstream as you can to improve your chances of delaying and or even possibly avoiding the medical conditions that may await you further downstream. Remember, you are always upstream somewhere, so start today. I absolutely love that. So let's just start out by telling us what Q4 Active does.
Sure. So we are a fitness studio that focuses on adults 50 and over, and we focus on physical conditioning as well as brain health, in particular cognitive health within the training, but as a backdrop, focusing on community and so emotional health as well comes into play. And so, in a nutshell, that's our approach. To the quote that you mentioned, our goal is to try to capture people as they enter their fourth quarter of life, whatever age that might be. Some people go straight to 75 for some reason, but many people will start their fourth quarter a little sooner. And since we don't know exactly what that is, why not start immediately when you can?
Absolutely. So, what are some of the considerations when working with an older adult?
Yeah, so what we do differently than some other circuit training type of places is we make sure everybody gets an initial assessment first so that we know a lot about them coming in. As you know, older adults present with a good deal of anything from chronic diseases to medical conditions. And many places don't really get into that. They just sign you up, you sign a waiver, and then off you go. So one of the considerations is trying to learn more and more about each of our different members as they come in. And then secondly, we're not really creating programs that are designed to just exhaust people so that they feel like they've got this workout in or make them sweat dramatically. We try to focus in on some of the aging models and create programs that get after all the functional fitness elements that are needed, such as cardiovascular health, strength, power, core balance and stability, mobility and flexibility, speed, agility, quickness, timing, coordination, and then most importantly, we focus in on brain training or dual tasking, where you're doing something with your brain at the same time as working with your body and either elevating your heart rate or doing some sort of strength training at the same time.
Well, that's something that I think most people don't understand is every time you engage in any kind of movement, you activate the brain.
Right,
And
exactly.
I always tell people that if nothing else, the best thing to do is go walking because once you get up out of your chair and start walking, the brain has to figure out where your head's going to turn, where your legs are going to go, and what your arms are doing. So that's a very, very profound thing to help people understand that your brain, the relationship between movement and your brain is very profound and fantastic. What age range do you hone in on?
Yeah. So we say roughly 50 and over. As I
Okay.
mentioned before, not everybody's fourth quarter starts at the same time. So if someone comes to us with, say, a biological age, that is older, even if chronologically they're younger than 50, we'd still want to work with them to try to get them into good conditioning. But generally speaking, we target 50 and over. And then our average age actually here is about 70.
Oh.
And we just signed up a gentleman who's 99. And he's just coming back in so he can start dancing. I would say that while we are hitting folks upstream, I would say that right now our membership base is not within that frail and fragile space, but also not necessarily at that master's athlete level either. We're looking for the folks who know that they need to exercise, they've been given a prescription to exercise, and but don't necessarily want to go to the gyms, the large boxes, and want programming that's designed around them. And so that's kind of the target. It's the bulk of the bell curve, I'd
Yes.
say.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's kind
So
of our target.
do you work with doctors, like when you're saying prescription for exercise, and do you take insurance? I'd imagine over 50, over 65, does Medicare kick in for this?
So it's a great question. The first part, I'd say we do work with physicians, um, DPTs, doctors of physical therapy. And when someone is either being discharged out of physical therapy, definitely happy to have that conversation. I've had that conversation to kind of continue or maintain that continuum of care, that circle of care. So we absolutely do, and we try to get around our neighborhood here with the different physicians, and we do have a director of medicine who's also a very well-known neurosurgeon. But in answer to your second question, as far as insurance go, we don't take insurance directly, but so in other words, we wouldn't bill any insurance company. But what we do, which is similar to other types of programs, we have worked with a company called Silver and Fit, or a program called Silver and Fit. So if you happen to have an insurance company that offers this benefit, Silver and Fit, then you can attend our studio for a couple of like 4 to 6 classes, and it's subsidized. But generally speaking, we have a membership, and it's a monthly membership. And if you come regularly, maybe 3 times a week, then your per class rate is very inexpensive, especially here in Los Angeles, relative to the different classes that you can take around here and what you would pay on a per class basis.
I'm astounded. I'm 64 and I've been in the gym since about 23. So we're looking at 40 years of weight training, taking aerobics, spin classing, you name it. And I just, my jaw drops when I see what the price of a class is at a studio,
Yeah.
$40, $50 an hour, some of them just to take
Yeah.
spin class or take a Pilates class. And, we those of us who've been around for a while. So I love to see that an older adult can go to a gym, feel comfortable. I'm still in the free weight room at LA Fitness. So not
Yes.
I'm 40 years older than everyone else. I am the only girl. So, when the guys say they say hello to me or whatever, or they ask, I say, can I help you, with something, or can I spot you? They say, oh, you're really strong. And I'm like, I'm old enough to be your grandmother. And they don't
Yeah.
believe me, but I am the rarity. I know that a lot of people are really intimidated and really afraid to go in the gym.
Yeah.
And, this is why you and I together as partners really want to inspire people to find a place that they can feel comfortable and maximize their wellness. That's really the key, is to get out there. So, Tony, when they come in, how do you assess the older client? What's the first thing you do other than the weight and the questionnaire? What are some of the things that you look for?
Yeah. So, well, we definitely do the questionnaire, like a health screening, medication screening. We want to know, is this person going to be carrying an inhaler? Do they have an EpiPen? Do they need to, are they, they're not drunk, they have diabetes. We want to know all those things.
Sure.
Past that, we do some physical assessments to include a balance and fall risk assessment. I've got a great scale for that does it. It's called balance tracking scale, and it kicks out a very nice report. And we also do grip strength, because grip strength is very strongly correlated with overall body strength.
Okay.
Of course, we'll do blood pressure, we'll do body composition, but not for the purposes of body fat analysis, but for the opposite. What's your lean body mass like? And then stress that's a number we want to maintain or improve. And then we'll also do what's called a cognitive motor assessment. We have some high-tech pieces of equipment here that can present assessments that are in the research, validated, that can get after your cognitive skills, such as memory, such as brain processing speed, also many different forms of attention, such as selective attention or divided attention. And then also an area called executive function, which are things like organization, planning, strategizing, also inhibiting responses, and so forth. So we have some great tools that help us get after a person's cognitive motor skill set. And then we use those same tools to train them, either in high tech, but then we've got lots of low tech type of, hey, count backwards from 105 by sevens, count upwards by sevens, but while you're doing some motor activities.
Oh, that's
whether that, yeah. And so we check that, and we do some of the pretty standard older adult assessments as well, like a sit to stand, 8 or 10 foot up and go, things like that, depending on who we have. So for example, the 99-year-old person, I want to determine sit to stands. But when I get somebody who's 55 and they clearly have the mobility and the strength, then I'm probably not doing that particular exercise. But cognitive motor and balance and fall prevention. And of course, as soon as someone walks in as a fitness professional, I'm already analyzing and assessing gait and posture. And then in the way, of course, we're not clinical, so it couldn't do anything in the way of assessing someone's actual, any neurological issues, but through the communications and questions, sort of a screen to determine how well they might take direction in our circuit classes, and maybe where I could best direct them to the various services that we do offer, which include self-guided brain training sessions.
Yeah. Amazing. So Tony, if you see during the assessment, it's just like a little aside, you see something troublesome, what do you do with that? Do you tell the patient we recommend you get a further exam, or how do you handle that? Because I think people are coming to the gym, they're not coming to the doctor's office, and that would be very off-putting.
Exactly. I mean, we want to remove the barriers to getting involved. And certainly a barrier would be, well, before you ever get going, you have to fill out this sheet that you filled out 100 times going to a variety of different doctors. So we try to expedite that process. As someone who's been in the industry and worked with clients at various age levels, folks in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, maybe even 50s, they're not going to the doctor necessarily on the regular, and they're not aware necessarily of the different signs and symptoms that could be risk factors. So with that group, we're definitely following an ACSM type protocol of, you've got one or more risk factors for this, we're going to send you, ask you to go see your doctor. With this group, it's very interesting because most of them have all seen their doctor, within the last 3 to 6 months, and they've all been told to exercise. And they've all been, they don't necessarily walk in with a paper prescription, but that's generally the case. And so, we're not necessarily going to be requiring people when they present with, arthritis, let's say,
Okay. Mhm.
because a lot of them are here for that reason. So, but if there's something that is really significant, or on a day where I take their blood pressure and it's like 220 over like 120, we're not going to do anything, on that day, and we'll talk about it and we'll find out. Like I said, we don't generally get folks who would probably be patients in another environment where you have a frail and fragile, but we have worked with folks who have come from a memory care um, clinic or memory care division of a senior living
Oh,
home,
okay.
and tried and did our best to work with that group. We've learned a lot along the way in the last 2 years. So, but yeah, we haven't really had people that have presented too much. But of course, if we identified anything that, especially on the neurological end, which most places don't really assess in any way, we would definitely do a referral or make a recommendation that they speak to either their physician or to a neurologist or something, because a real flag has shown up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Tony, this program is fantastic, and I hope to see it everywhere,
Yeah.
going forward. And we all know there's a media bias towards youth, right? Especially when discussing the older person leaves us out of the equation. Still to this day, all we know, and as we know, the not only is the population aging, the awareness and the intervention that's been going on is astounding, right? It's huge. So, we talked a little bit earlier, but I guess this affects your ability to attract the older adult in a positive way. Um, because people are saying that, yet again, we talked earlier, it's they're afraid to go to the gym or embarrassed to go to the gym, or feeling afraid. So since you've been at this for such a long time as a fitness professional and obviously an observer of the health trends that are going on the last 30 years, what changes have you seen, both good and bad, for the adult exerciser?
And specifically the older adult
Yes.
exerciser.
Yes.
Well, I would definitely say we're behind some of that change, in a sense that, when you're watching TV, you see a good deal of these pharmacological commercials that speak to neurological issues and memory and so forth. And but rarely is there a recommendation to go exercise. So I
Mm.
would say that, as you said, as the adult population is getting older and older, and with the neurological conditions ever increasing over time, the fact that our industry is starting to look at the angle of training the brain and cognitively is kind of a new thing. And I'm not sure that people can really get after it without the kind of tools that we do have. But there are, as you mentioned, some certifications out there now that are directed at the aging population and also at brain training in particular and brain health. So those are some changes that I'd say have been good modifications for the older adult. I'd say for our studio, again, as you mentioned, there's an intimidation around a lot of the different types of facilities, but we really try to let people know that this place was built specifically for them. The lighting is as such, and we don't have tons of machines with lots of contraptions and pins and things. It's very guided by the instructors. So people are taking circuit classes driven by a trainer, and then even the programming is really designed around them. So even the music, down to the music,
I was just going to ask
Yeah.
you, I cannot stand having techno disco, and I grew up in the 70s,
Yeah.
blasting in my sensitive 64-year-old ears while I'm
Yeah.
in the gym. I like it to be a subtle background. Do you even play music?
So we do play
Okay.
music, and what I would say is, I think I was really ambitious to select all that music that would be memory inducing and, evoke days of Woodstock and all that. And one of the things you learn is that not everybody likes oldies. They don't want to go all
Okay.
to the oldies and disco. But to the extent that we try to balance out here and there, there's some evocative disco, but we'll bring in some 80s and 90s. It's just, yeah, it's not like high techno thrashing EDM type. It's very age appropriate, if you
Okay. Okay.
and the lighting, we consider the lighting in terms of vision is a real thing that can become an issue for older adults. So we keep the place nicely lit. And yeah, a lot of the equipment is, especially when you're training folks, you don't need to load up with like 50-pound dumbbells. You can get a lot accomplished with light weights, long holds, tempos, things like that. So we don't want to intimidate people with the variety of different equipment too. And so, yeah, it's really kind of dialed in on the programming as far as, but also the facility too. So,
So for the personal accomplishment of the individual that comes in, do they get a fitness log or because not everybody's tech savvy enough to pop it on their phone or
right.
yeah, so what would be the
Yeah.
amenities, I guess kind of like the prize that somebody comes in or the goal when they're trying to achieve that.
Well, it's funny. We have all that in place. If somebody wants to get a reassessment
Mhm.
and do some comparisons to their baseline measures and all of that, from the science and, if you can't measure it, how do you really like know if you've achieved the goal or not? But in the end, most of these adults are, how do I feel? Do I move better? Do I recover better from, say, a trip or a fall?
Mhm.
And I don't know, this is something you could probably comment is as we get older, we get a better sense of who we are and our bodies and whether something is benefiting us or not. And so I would say that while that is definitely in place, if anybody wants it, most of the folks really get a sense of their benefits from just time. They
Yeah,
say
just
they're
living
trained.
it, just living and breathing it and doing what they're supposed to. And so ideally it's coming in 3 days a week, like the standard fitness programs that you see across the board, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could make, the CDC has the recommendations of 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity, 2 times a week of strength training, 2 times a week of some other kind of training like brain training or balance training. So if you do that, 2 to 3 times a week, you're definitely going to see benefits if you are consistent and focused without guaranteeing benefits. Everybody does, as can't control what somebody does with all those other hours in the week.
Right.
But from what we've seen on its face, to talk to people who've taken the classes, and you say, "Wow, you're coming in like 2 times a day." They take a stretch class and then they'll take a circuit class, and then the report is just, "I just feel stronger.
Yeah.
I feel looser, more mobile. I don't get as tired as I used to." So not necessarily these other facilities where they have leaderboards and you're looking at heart
Yes.
rate
Yes.
zones and all that. Uh, if somebody brought that as something that they wanted us to watch, happy to watch that and give them programming on it. But they're not necessarily into it for that. There's a camaraderie, seeing people working out together, keeping an eye out for one another. Hey, where you been? Or where have you been? We didn't see you last week. It's amazing. And I get texts from clients like late at night, it's just like, "Hey, I took a spill. I won't be in tomorrow, but could you let everybody know?" And then we do.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so it's really, it's a combination of, cognitive health, yes, memory, attention, but also uh, emotional health, and when we can, we'll bring in workshops and things that get after other things like financial wellness, to the extent that why we just did a workshop on scams, how to avoid scams and fraud. And so try to give a broad experience for the older adult.
That's absolutely fantastic. I'm so thrilled because you know what you're also doing, Tony? I feel like you're single-handedly tackling that the loneliness problem we're having, that
Exactly.
people are making new friends. And I say at any age, any time in your life, you can make a new friend, you can make a new group of friends by coming to a place like yours and being accountable. That's one of the things. That's why I asked about
Yeah.
the calculations and the formulas and the updates, because that accountability helps you keep coming back. So you put on a couple of pounds, you take off a couple of pounds, you feel a little weaker, you feel a little stronger. That big picture of commitment always seems to help. We're getting close to time, but I want to ask you, where do you go? What's your research go-to site for when you want to hear about the latest science in aging well?
Well, I would say WebMD is typically a place I go. Harvard newsletter has, they put out booklets, but also a book every year, text. Certainly, National Institutes on Health, the NIH, CDC. My background is in exercise science, and with a master's degree and a couple of years in a PhD, you learn how to what's a journal, what's a magazine article, and
Okay.
what's based in science, and then even then, to take everything with a grain of salt. So, but I mean, even just the fact that exercise research is around exercise, is it good for you? Is it bad for you? You can kind of fortunately find, it's a balance. Nothing's ever proven. It's just where's the weight of the evidence. So I look at,
You go by how you feel. If you take that personal assessment and checking in with yourself and seeing what works. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so I use those resources for the most part, and then for the research end of it. And some things are research driven, evidence based, and then other things are proven out, and so you look for both those. Most recently, just we're sharing this with our membership base, but it was a meta-analysis on, the effects of exercise on brain health and a particular neurotransmitter, if you will. And that's just, let's look at all these different articles that have done research and see what, if anything, can come out of it. And even those are done in a certain way. You can't throw all your eggs in the sea,
Yeah.
fruit. But some of those are really good articles to make you feel like, okay, we're doing something that's helpful. We're not doing something that's harmful. And generally my philosophy is if you come in, that's step one, just get here. And then if you do anything that's not what we ask you to do, as long as it's safe and not harmful, you can keep doing it, especially if you're having fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we can actually get you doing what we're hoping to achieve, even better. But just getting here, getting moving, seeing people, getting your heart rate up. There's so much to that for this group, and yeah, and it's a wonderful audience.
Mhm.
I mean, I love this. I'm part of it myself anyway. On the, I'm almost 60 myself, but it's some of the levels of motivation and drive and resilience that you see in the older adults is very inspiring, and I like that inspiration. So it's a great group.
It's wonderful. Tony, I ask all my guests, what do you like about getting older?
What do I like about getting older? Wow, that's it. I thought if I could prepare me ahead of time. Well, I definitely think through experience, you learn to worry a little less about some of the things that you used to worry about. I will say that other things then come into the spotlight for you to worry about. But you know, I always tell this story where 20 something years, my parents are 20 years older than me. So 20 something years ago, I'm sitting in a Target around this time and I'm stressed out, anxious. My God, my parents are getting so old and God, I don't know how many years they have left. And now I'm thinking, well, they were my age at the time that I was really worried about them.
Yes. Yes.
And then I realized like they weren't worried about it, and just as I'm not worried about it. So when I start to think and get worried about what my parents are feeling and doing and worrying about now, I go back to that and go, you know, they're probably not worrying about these things as much as I thought they were. So I think just, you know, learning to let go of certain anxieties and fears and thoughts has been probably the best part, you know, like, oh my God, I lost my job. It's instead of like, I feel so bad for you, I congratulate people. Awesome. You know, day one of your next,
Of
you
your
know,
new life, right?
your new life. Yeah, your new
That's great.
and you can I can look at my own experience and just go, wow, that was the first day of the beginning of something. And I'm glad I didn't stress out about it like I had done many times over in the past. Not that I got fired many times
Yeah,
over,
yeah, yeah. I
but
get it.
changes, you know. So anyway, yeah.
Tony Berlant, I can't thank you enough for joining us. This has been so informative and wonderful. And I wish you so much success, not only in 2025, but ongoing. And I'm here for you. And I'm going to stop by and get an assessment
I
and
would
share
love
with
that.
our audience what that was like, because I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. And for more information about Q4 Active, go to www.q4-active.com, and we will include this on the notification when we put the show up. So I want to thank all of you for listening to It's Okay to Be Old, and please subscribe to my channel. Tony, again, I can't thank you enough for joining us. It's been wonderful, and we'll have you back at a future date. Look forward to
Oh,
seeing you again.
I would love that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.